Estate planning stories. I'm Gary Anderson, financial advisor, Anderson Advisors.
And I'm Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney.
Kevin, earlier we had financial planning stories, and now I think it's a good lead in to have some estate planning stories, because I know your experience over the years, and you've been doing this a long time. You have a lot of stories to tell, and they're very good stories, a lot of experiences, both good and bad, that people can learn from. And when we get into estate planning stories, people sometimes think, well, what in the heck is an estate plan anyway? People a lot of times find out too late that they should have planned better for what was going to happen after they died. Now, you don't find this out yourself. It's your loved ones. It's your spouse that finds out that maybe the two of you didn't do the type of planning you should have at the time to make sure that the other spouse was going to have things go their way, and eventually that things would pass along to their children and grandchildren. And people just sometimes don't realize the significance of it. I hope they do, but it's amazing to me to see how many people haven't done this.
Oh, it is. It is. I'm actually not very surprised. As long as I've been doing this, I've been doing it close now to 34 years. You recall I started when I was 12, and
Yes,
that's a
I
story
remember.
in
Yeah.
and of itself.
I patted you on the head and
Yes,
told
he
you to
did.
get in there
Yes, he
and
did.
do law.
That's right. Yeah, you were 16, and we became friends at that point. So that's my math, and I'm sticking with it. But yeah, these estate planning stories, Gary, really illustrate how important these fundamentals are. I like what you talked about in the previous segment of planning for retirement, and financial planning has some basic fundamentals that if you get those down, you get that process down, and you get to the end of the line, you get ready to retire, or you get to the end of the line in this case, which is the real end of the line, and you pass away, then you know exactly what's going to happen to your assets when you pass away. And that's why estate planning really does affect us all. I've heard so many stories over the years of people telling me, well, estate planning really didn't apply to me because I don't own many assets. And then turns out, realize that estate planning does apply to them. And here's why I think it applies to all of us. Because number one, we all have assets. Somebody asked me the other day, how old do I have to be to do estate planning? And I asked them, well, do you work? Yes. Do you drive a car to work? Yes. Do you have a bank account where you deposit your paycheck? Yes. Do you have a retirement account at work? Yes. You got 3 assets. Something's going to happen to those assets when you die. I've talked to people in their 90s, and they're, well, we don't have much. I've lived a long time and spent a lot of my money. Good. Do you own a home? Yeah, I still have a home. Do you have a retirement account? Yeah, I have a retirement account. Do you have a car, life insurance policy? Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. It's not worth much. You have assets. We all have assets. And here's another thing we all have in common. We all have wishes about what we want to happen to those assets. Some people I want to take care of my spouse and kids and daughter. And if my father's still here, make sure that he's taken care of. Take care of my pet. I know people think that's crazy, but she's a part of our family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there are things you can do now to take care of your pet. So I have wishes. Now, here's another fundamental principle. It's going to apply to all of us. We're all going to die. I've not met anybody yet that said, I'm not going to die, and been able to convince me that they're not going to die. They may think they're not going to, but I have not met anybody yet so far that has been able to convince me that's not going to happen.
We're all headed that way.
We're all headed in that direction. Unless we're fortunate enough to be here when the good Lord comes back, we're all going to die. Mm-hmm. So see, estate planning applies to all of us because something's going to happen to those assets when we die. And so there's some fundamental legal principles that are involved. And this story illustrates how important it is to get these two fundamental principles coordinated together. Get wishes in your document and title coordinated together. When I came to Gainesville back in 1998, I joined a law firm. And not long, probably a month or two after I was there, a young lady came to see me. She was the youngest daughter of 3. There were 3 daughters. Her mom had passed away a few months earlier, and she wanted to hire my law firm to enforce her mother's will. One of my partners, who's now deceased, drew up that will. And that will said, when I die, I want everything that I own, everything I have, all my real estate, all my bank accounts, everything. I want it split 3 ways. She appointed her oldest daughter to carry out her wishes. That's called an executor in a will. Well, Well, the youngest daughter came to see me because her oldest sister, the executor, was not following mom's wishes. She was not sharing the money in the bank account. And the bank account had a lot more money in it when mom started her will, when mom died, than when she started her will. Why? Because mom sold her home. Actually, mom retitled her home and put her home in her daughter's name, and her daughter then sold it and kept all the money. Put it in the bank account, kept all the money. Why? Because the daughter got the bank account despite what mom's wishes said. But wait a minute, Kevin, I thought if you do a will, you have all the estate planning done. If you've got a document, you have everything taken care of. But this person found out that that's actually not the case because the document was missing another essential element.
You're listening to Truth in Planning. I'm Gary Anderson, financial advisor, and I'm here with my co-host, Kevin Tharp, estate planning and elder law attorney. And Kevin, I think that's an important thing to really emphasize there. This story is about someone who took their biggest possession, something that was the most valuable thing they had, and they gave it to somebody else. Just essentially gave it to somebody else. And the will was saying something else.
Because here's what happened. So mom drew up this will. Her lawyer drew up this will that said split everything 3 ways. But mom, as she got older, like your client, was concerned about not being able to handle a lot of things and make decisions. So she went to her bank where her banking accounts were, her checking account and savings accounts were, and the people at the bank told her, if you want your daughter to be able to help you pay your bills, you need to put her name on your bank account. Mom says, well, that sounds convenient and that makes sense. So that's exactly what she did. Mom changed title, and now that title conflicted with the will because the will says split everything 3 ways when I die, but title, the law of title says that bank account goes to that one daughter. And as a result, that one daughter does not have to share that money with her siblings. And that's what her youngest sister learned, the importance of the lesson of not getting those 2 principles coordinated together. She did not get wishes and title coordinated together. So the moral of the story is get wishes and title coordinated together. And fortunately, Gary, there is a document that would have let mom do that lets us do that today. Do a trust, set up a trust, put your wishes in the trust. I want everything split 3 ways. Title your bank account in the name of that trust. You still have complete ownership and access. You can designate 1 or more of your children to be trustees to step in and help you manage that trust and the accounts titled in the name of that trust for your benefit. And then when you pass away, your trustee, following your instructions, splits the money 3 ways. And on top of that, doesn't have to go through probate.
Kevin, I think that's a very good point as far as having different ways to plan for things after you're gone, after you leave this earth. I think a lot of times people think there's only one way to do this. And come to find out, there are other ways to do it and may be better than what you're used to hearing. So I think it's something that people need to, that it needs to be something that people really get a grip on. I know you can do this for people. Something that you allow people to do is come in and talk to you.
If you've recently updated your estate planning documents or thinking about doing that, and somebody's told you just update your document, get a second opinion. We'd be happy to talk with you about the importance of getting the title of asset coordinated with your document. My number is 866-253-6994 or my website, KevinTharp.com.
This is important, I think, Kevin. As long as people can communicate about these things, the outcome is way better. You've seen this over the years. I've seen this over the years. If you can just sit down for a few minutes, which everybody has a busy life. They're trying to get things done. They have family to take care of. They have children, grandchildren. They have a lot of things going on. So it's very, very important that you just give yourself a little time to communicate it. That 1 hour, I believe, with you is worth millions as far as I'm concerned.
And Gary, that first hour, as you mentioned, is complimentary. So just give our offices a call, 866-253-6994 or KevinTharp.com.
You're listening to Truth in Planning on News Talk AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.